Welcome to the session, Smartboard for beginners, not dummies. Now, I understand that you people, you move around. You often don't have a fixed base. Sometimes you'll be in a room that has a smartboard. Sometimes you'll be in a room that doesn't have a smartboard. You're never really sure what you'll get. You've just got to kind of make the best of what you can. You're roving, you're peripatetic, you're kind of extemporising kind of people. What I'm hoping to do in this session is give you a sense of, if you are in a room with a smartboard, what can you do with it, how can you use it, and where are the kind of quick wins and stuff. In terms of what I'm going to cover, I've got about 14 or 15 slides, which I think is going to cover most of the most important stuff. I know this, but there's probably things that I won't cover, so if you have a question, just ask it as we go along. I mean, sometimes you might ask a question, I'll say, great question, but I'm actually going to come on to that, in which case I'll just say, we'll be coming on to it. Other times it might be a question I wouldn't anticipate, so by all means do it. And I'll try and leave a couple of minutes at the end for questions. I'll also be around over lunch, so if you want to just come and grab me over lunch and ask a question you didn't want to ask in the group, feel free. So, what is a smartboard? I've already said it's a large touch screen, which is not working at the moment. Come on. That's interesting. Oh, there we go. Yes, so it's a large touch screen which mostly hangs on your wall or comes on a screen, comes on a trolley like this. The first thing you need to make your smartboard work is a projector. Now, the projector that I've got here is an ultra short throw projector, so it's kind of part of an all-in-one system. A lot of you will be familiar with smartboards in rooms that probably have a projector on a pole or a mount in the middle of the ceiling. It really doesn't matter, because the only important thing is that what's on the content, what's on your computer, gets shone onto the screen. The other thing you need to make it work is a PC or a Mac or a computer of some sort, because that's effectively what's generating the content. And at a basic level, all the smartboard does is it just provides a touch interface to your computer. So if your questions that you've got, which are totally reasonable, are things like, can I go on the internet using a smartboard? Can I play some games on a smartboard? Can I do work on spreadsheets? The answer to all of those is yes. Because if you can do it on your computer, you can do it on a smartboard. The smartboard is just a big fancy mouse hanging on the wall. What makes a smartboard particularly useful is you get a piece of software with it called Notebook. Now, I'm using Notebook at the moment. That's what this piece of software is. And I'm going to be talking a lot about Notebook over the next hour or so. And you're going to be becoming quite familiar with it, because the software itself creates some really good opportunities to work productively with the board. If Smart provided just the smartboard without the software, they probably wouldn't have had so many customers for smartboards. I mean, they probably would have sold some, but most people would have looked at it and gone, well, it's just a touch screen. The reason that the smartboard has been so popular is because the software allows you to do some cool things with it. So most of the time I'll be talking about Notebook. A little bit more about hardware though. The board itself connects up to your computer via a USB. So just like you plug a mouse in, you just plug the smartboard in. And when the software is running, that makes everything work. Along the bottom, you have a pen tray with the four common colours, black, red, green, and blue. And if you ever want to write on the smartboard, you just pick the pen up and write. The pen itself hasn't got any technology, and that's actually just a piece of plastic. The reason that the computer knows that I want to write on the board with red ink is because the pen tray has detected the pen is missing. There's a light sensor, and when you pick the pen up, it says, oh, the red pen's missing. So it assumes that I'm writing with a red pen. When I put the pen back down, it switches the ink off, and it actually automatically then puts me back to mouse mode, so I can actually control things with my finger. It's got some nice features though, because it means that you're actually able, if you want to write with your finger, because as long as you've got the pen in your hand, you've actually got the black ink switched on. The same goes for the eraser. If you pick the eraser up, you get the white button, and you can rub your ink out if you want. It works just as well just rubbing out with your finger, and when you finish rubbing out, put the eraser back, and you're back to mouse mode. When people first start using a smartboard, one of the things that I see a lot of people doing, I think I was the same myself years ago, the board itself is resistive. There's 2 layers of material with a very thin air gap in between. And when you touch the board, you touch the 2 surfaces together. That creates an electrical connection which works as a switch. So it knows, the board knows, rather the computer knows where I'm touching it and where I'm actually placing my finger. Some people, when they first start using a board, because they're a little bit soft to the touch, that's because of the air gap, they're quite gentle with them. And if you're very gentle with a board, I'll illustrate you with the pen. If you write really softly, you don't get much ink because you're not actually closing the air gap. So you have to, the official smart term is press with intent. In other words, show who's boss. Because you can't damage the board by pressing too hard with either your pen or your fingers. Believe me, we tried. You have to get like some serious, you have to get seriously rough with the board to damage it. They're very, very solid. So when you are working on a smart board, my first golden rule is don't worry about pressing too hard. Press harder rather than softer, because then you'll see, you can actually hear how hard I'm pressing. You can hear by the sound. Because if I don't press too hard, I actually start losing control of the object that I'm trying to press with. So show it who's boss. Next thing about the board is, and this is particularly the case if you go into a room that isn't yours. I mean, if it's your own training room and it's all set up, you wander in, you switch everything on and everything's a dream, isn't it? Brilliant. If you are in somebody else's premises, you're on a school or you're in a community centre and there's a smart board, there's a strong chance that the board may not be oriented or aligned properly. Now, what I mean by orientation or alignment, that's the same thing, is where you're clicking with your finger or the pen is where the image is being projected. Now, this board is perfectly aligned because I aligned it myself. So you can see that where I'm drawing is exactly where I expect it to be. If the board's out of alignment, I would be drawing here and the board would probably be aligning somewhere else. So, if the board is out of alignment and it's not behaving the way you expect, you need to know how to align it. This is quite an easy process, by the way. On the front of the pen tray, there are 2 buttons. The left-hand side one, you can come and look at these when the session's finished. It's got a picture of a keyboard, and it launches a floating keyboard. The purpose of the floating keyboard is, you might bring up a search engine, you might want to Google something. I develop. So you don't have to go to your computer, you can just tap it in on this little keyboard. You want to do a lot of typing on there, but for short words and phrases it's absolutely fine. The other button is a right mouse click button. So if you ever need to do a right mouse click on the board, what you can do, you can press it and it will tell you that the next time you hit the screen, it will do a right mouse click. So 2 buttons, keyboard, right mouse click. If you press both of them together, you get the orientation screen, which looks like that. Now, all you have to do is click in the centre of these 9 targets. It's not actually where you click, it's where you let go. So the best thing to do is to drag your finger into the centre of the cross. You see I'm bang in the middle and let go. And then it'll save the alignment point and it will move on and it moves through them in this order. If you make a mistake, like that, did you see? I was quite a long way away. And you want to go back, just press one of the buttons and you can go back and have another go. By the way, if I'd have left that one, the board would have been aligned apart from in the middle where it'd be a little bit off. Wouldn't have actually been a showstopper. I could have lived with it, but I've gone back and aligned it perfectly. So you do your 9 alignments, like this, click, click. And then there's a short pause, because the board has to think about it, and it saves the alignments onto the board. And you know you're in alignment because you can either pick a pen up, let's make a new page, and just have a draw. Happy days, that's well aligned. A second way of checking is if you come over and pick up any of your icons that live in the system tray, I'll just click on my smartboard icon there. I managed to click on it. If you can select one of those icons, the board is well aligned, because those icons are pretty small. They're only about 12 icons across, there's 12 pixels across. So the board's aligned. Once you've aligned the board, it remembers the settings. So if I powered this system down for lunch and came back after lunch, I probably wouldn't have to align it again. I'd say it's always a good idea to align a board when you first start using it, because then you've lined it up for your own kind of purposes and it's absolutely there and it's working well.